self-sufficient, economically self-sufficient is a goal for all parents. I would agree with that. And we need to make sure that our students are prepared with that. And we must provide the training, and the federal government needs to provide it, and not just do it as a mandate that we expect the states and we expect the local school boards to provide it, because that's not going to happen. And then we're going, because the resources are just not there. So I agree with you, and I think that that is most important.
While I'm not familiar with the specific provisions of the Act, I am absolutely supportive of the idea of making sure that we have the resources necessary for advancing what I'll call the digital curriculum. Because there is this sea change that is going through education now. For years, we have relied upon a teaching method where teachers would provide the same instruction to everybody in the class, not have decent tools that allow them to adapt the learning to the needs of specific students. The digital curriculum actually permits that and gives our teachers greater capabilities to adapt to the individual students. Digital curriculum also gives us the opportunity to take advantage of distance learning in ways that are pretty exciting, where you can tap the talent expertise of people any place in the world and increase connectivity between students so they actually get to know people in faraway places in ways that can be very interesting. And as we've talked about, we know that our students in this generation are more technically competent than any of us in my generation. All right? They can run circles around us. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to take advantage of their interest, their aptitude, and do it in a way that furthers our learning objectives. So while there's lots of opportunity, I can close by saying there's also a lot of challenge, because we can't get to that perfect view world of everyone in an adaptive learning scenario as I described quickly. It's a process. It begins by getting broadband, but it also begins by having some plans that have a very clear vision for where a particular school district is going to go and how to get there using best practices, because there are some school districts across the U.S. that have advanced on this path and are much further ahead of school districts that we have here in this immediate area. So leveraging those lessons learned from those that have been there and actually shown some success is part of what I would plan to do as a leader. It's not so much policy, it's exercising leadership to show where these best practices are and how we can take advantage of them.
I have a question. I actually don't know what this act is, but can you explain, isn't it about career and technical?
Yes.
It's not about digital, it's more about like learning how, like engineering concepts,
Right.
the career being a technical field.
Yes, the career. Go ahead. No,
The career and technical.
Yes, field.
Right, it's
much
not
broader
just
than
digital,
agriculture.
it's like, it's really giving you skills, like you may have engineering skills with the ability to walk into, say, a company and be able to operate, know some basic ideas, like say, a pilot. Often they use GPSs now, but now when you actually learn to go to ground school and you learn how to fly, you actually learn how to do it the old-fashioned way in case that your instrument panel goes down and you know how to actually learn how to fly a plane. It's that kind of skill, isn't it?
Correct.
So resources for that, okay, so I didn't think of, I thought it was more of like a vocational, more of what like BOCES traditionally used to do. I'm not familiar with the act at all, but as long as it doesn't come with unfunded mandates and it actually teaches students the basic skills about how to do various, whether it's engineering or technical things that they need to go out into the world and understand. I think the digital world, that's another computer programming, digital, other issues. I think it sounds like something that would be excellent in helping our students move into, say, understanding how to work with crops or how to work with moving parts or to create some of the beautiful machines that are on how it's made or something like that. Is that what you're kind of talking about? Yeah, I thought it was more of that. I didn't get that it was just computers. I think that would be great because I think one of the issues that we do have is that students often go right to a computer and they don't actually understand the systems behind them. I remember, it's just a quick thing, when I used to own the Penny Saver, my sister was working for us, and she actually created we had the very first online newspaper in the community, and she did it all with raw HTML language. You know, you don't need to do that anymore now, you can just go on, copy and paste, and there you go, you've got a website. And I just think some of that raw teaching, that might be what you're talking about with that act, I'm guessing that that's what it would be. I think that would be an excellent use of resources to help our students to become more critical thinkers and at the base skills as opposed to just jumping into digital learning. Thank you.
Next question from one of the panel. Please, the next question, please.
Hi, Jackie Edwards, New York Hills Community School District. I've heard each of you speak about limited resources on the federal level and trying to divvy them up. That being said, what federal education programs do you most support, and which ones would you like to abolish?
If we think of some of the intent behind the Every Student Succeed Act, where there are funds that are, I believe, available in Title I that would help us expand the school improvements, the opportunity to take advantage of those funds and get them into our local school districts, especially where there are needs. Some of the school districts that have, they're very disadvantaged. If you look across upstate New York, there's a lot of variety from one school district to another in terms of what they have to work with. And the idea behind ESSA, where Title I funding can help level the playing field across disparate school districts, is an idea that I support. It does require navigating through that process, and that's something that is expected on anyone that's in a professional seat to help our individual districts do so. So that would be an area that I would look forward to becoming involved in.
I think the federal government, as I stated before, that they absolutely should fund special education, and they should fund it as fully as they have said they were going to since, I believe, the 1970s. And that's an area that I think the federal government, I would support continuing that, but in not asking, but requiring them to pay for that. The thing that I would not support in the federal government is the levels and levels of reporting that is necessary for certain programs. That most times when we have a mandate, and it's also at the state level, what is required in order to meet that mandate really has very little to do with the services provided to the students. That the money is all eaten up in filing this report, filling out this document, having your compliance officer go over it, achieve that. And that's what I would say we need to simplify. We need to stop with the levels upon levels that is just paperwork and reporting, and get down to funding the individual students in the classroom, professional development, and making sure that our students have an appropriate education.
The first thing I would eliminate is this heavily emphasis on Common Core and the general standards, and because so much I think the funding is so dependent on complying and strictly complying with these Common Core standards that I would just eliminate that. I mean, I don't see why we should allow the school districts to provide their own curriculum, obviously to meet certain benchmarks, but not to meet this universal standard that every child has to be, you know, I think it's a minimum standard in Common Core. I think we end up having McDonald's hamburgers, which are certainly delicious, but they're not the best. I would like to see us eliminate all that funding that is denied the school districts on that basis. I'm not sure, and again, I'm not sure how much of the universal pre-K funding is going to be beneficial. I think that studies are still being done. I would like to see us maintain any standards that help and assist our local school districts, particularly with professional development, as well as, you know, obviously providing for the students. But I think a lot of the teachers need support, and it just seems to me that we don't provide the support that we need. But I don't want, I just hate to have to tie standards to the funding. And, but, you know, if we had to eliminate, I would definitely eliminate, the funding that's related to enforcing the Common Core and just allow that funding to go direct, because you're causing the school districts to spend all this money that really doesn't get them any further. So allowing them to have their own standards and then bringing, you know, you could actually tailor the money back probably, and it would be successful. That made sense.
Hi, Brian Perrin, Remsen Central School District, Vice President, Board of Education. My question has to do with agriculture and doing business with farmers in the local community. I'd like to understand if anything can be done to help our school districts benefit from their local farmers. Within our local community, local farmers bear such a burden in the way of property taxes. They all need large amounts of land to eke out what little profit they make and are highly taxed. The school district can easily add in a curriculum to create a learning environment, in my opinion, a win, as we are teaching and feeding our students as well as our community is profiting from it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to touch back on the very first, one of the first questions or second or so on nutrition. And when I was a member of when I was at the Westmoreland School District, and they had a great school lunch program. This is before the national standards and the changes from the Shovel Fund when came on academic nutrition standards. So I could walk down the hall and get homemade soup every day that was made in the cafeteria. We could have a Caesar salad for $2 and all kinds of other great foods that were made and created by our nutritionists and the dietitians in that, in the local school district. This is something that was taken away. We did a lunch after the standards were implemented, and homemade soup was eliminated because it was too high in sodium, and so it was replaced with Jell-O packs because there was less sodium in them, but they were artificial. You know, it was just ridiculous standard. It is a problem with right now. The new nutrition standard is very hard to bring the farm table to the school districts, and I would love to see that eliminated. It's something I would advocate for as a member of Congress. They are doing that, and I hate to say this, but in many, and there are some smaller private schools and charter schools, and even in Delaware Academy, which is in my current assembly district, they do have a farm program where local farmers' foods and some of the food raised actually at Delaware Academy are used in the school lunch program. It can work, we can do it that way, it should be done that way. Our local food should be grown and eaten by our local farmers in our school districts, and it's just something that the federal bureaucracy, again, has gotten in the way of. But, you know, it was really sad to see the actually homemade soup and all these great things that were wonderful about the Westmoreland School District go away. And I actually did a lunch with our Congressman Richard Hanna just to show the absurdity of how this program is working or not working. And we got to go through the line, and our choices, again, was terrible. I couldn't pick 2 breads, and you know what the standards are. It's absurd. And I think the children, all of them, when we asked them, are you hungry? Every one of them raised their hand. They were all still hungry in school. And when you're starving them in school, they're not in a good learning environment. When they have healthy, good fiber, fresh vegetables, fresh foods that they're eating, and you know, that's the standard we should be seeking. Thank you.
I think partnering with our local farmers in our school district is an absolute win-win, and I think that we have to work towards that. We do, in our local BOCES, have purchasing programs that if we expand on those and we get the federal government to allow that to happen better with the standards and meeting the nutritional standards, that is going to be a win-win for our farmers and our job, and more importantly to our students. We need to help the farmers with the food regulations, because there are certain regulations that just have to be that way, you know, in use of pesticides, use of, you know, other things that, you know, would have to meet that standard. But I think that the government can work with the farmers and help them utilize that. And I agree with making the students involved in knowing where the food comes from, and it doesn't come from the supermarket. This is actually where it comes from. And as I said, you know, we in Broome County, we have a Child Hunger Task Force, and exposing our students in the school as well as at home to healthy fruits and vegetables. There's never been a child that starved themselves to death. If you provide the food for them, they will eat it. And if you provide consistently the food for them, they will learn to expect that at home and they will eat it at home. This has long-term benefits as far as childhood obesity, as far as long-term health issues. But we need to work with our farmers and our school, the regulations, and possibly create distribution hubs for packaging and for food safety that in distribution to our local school districts as well as purchasing of it. And as I said, I think that would be a win-win.
Pretty hard to argue with what's already been said here, because we all recognize that in this congressional district, we have a lot of really good farmers. We have a lot of foodstuffs that are produced right here, and we should absolutely take full advantage of the resources that we have right here and improve the nutrition for our students. The trick is that we also have some regulatory side with things being driven from the federal standards that have handcuffed some of our school districts to do what they would like to do. And I think that is part of our role in Congress to help work towards changing some of those standards to put us on a path that could be a little bit more common sense and give some flexibility back to our districts to take advantage of what's here, including working towards building some partnerships that would help on the distribution side so that the costs can be in line with what makes sense.
Question from Jim Myers, and I believe we've got Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Rose. I was a school teacher for 33 years, retired from teaching elementary library in Morrisville, and now I'm on the school board. When I first started, there were teachers, but currently in the Utica Observer Dispatch, I read an article about the declining interest of our students going into college to pursue becoming teachers, and we're seeing that shortage. In my part, I know it especially in the library media section, and I know as we try to hire other teachers in that area and other areas also. Good teachers are critical to the important well-being of our nation. You all indicated that. What do you believe is contributing to this problem, and what would you propose to remedy this situation?
Thank you, and you're right. There are, as someone who went into teaching at Cortland State, graduated with a degree in elementary education at a time when everybody was graduating with a degree in education and jobs were scarce, and now it's cyclical. We've gone back to that. We do need more good teachers. What's required of teachers is becoming tougher and tougher. It is not a job for the faint of heart. And what we need to do is make sure that we support those teachers. We need to provide them with the skills and know exactly what they're getting into. I know down in our district we have a program where students in high school can shadow teachers and to go to elementary schools and kind of get a sense of exactly what it's going to be like, so they can decide whether this is a profession that they really want to go into. But we also need, when our teachers come out of college, we need to provide mentors for them. We need to make sure that they have the support to be successful in the classroom, because the rate of new teachers returning is very low, and it's getting higher. The new teachers leave the profession at rates that we've never seen before, and I do believe it's because they are up against, they have to be mother, father, nutritionist, they have to be teacher, they have to be everything to that child, which if you go into teaching, you've got to have it in your heart, and you have to love what you're doing. But when there's so much put on you and you don't have anybody to help you and to mentor you, that becomes difficult. So that's how I would remedy it, is to make sure that school districts have a mentoring program for the new teachers to be able to retain them.
Here in New York State, we actually educate a lot more teachers than many other states. We do have a good crop. We have some people who come from out of state to receive their teacher education in New York State. So we we've got really high quality infrastructure, and our ability to keep growing that so that there is not only the education programs, but getting those education programs connected with our school districts in a way that can keep our next generation excited about the opportunities. For me, that means more than just what are the salaries paid. Many of the people that I've talked to that are considering education are aware that entry-level teacher salaries are oftentimes very low. That's a factor. But what is the environment they're walking into? The environment in terms of school districts that build collaboration within their faculty and their administration. Reputations are important within school districts to attract the right talent. And these things do end up having an impact on who decides where they're going to end up going in the field of education versus other career opportunities that might be out there. Many of the generation that is approaching college now or in college today are also interested in looking at opportunities in new industry. And the chance to meld together the skills they pick up, digital skills they might pick up in school, could they be put to use in an education environment? The school districts that advance further on that path are actually going to have a better job at recruiting the next generation teachers that will be out there for us to hire.
Thank you. I can only speak for New York State and my very large assembly district and the number of students and teachers that I encounter in my assembly office, but for my last 6 years in the assembly. I think we have a governor who's created a hostile environment to education. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. He seems, teachers, he has a lack of understanding of the professionalism of teachers, as I've talked about earlier. He's imposed an artificial APPR system on teachers to evaluate them by saying, you have students, for example, I'll just use the New York City School District example. It's not even in my district, but I've talked to numbers of teachers. They have students, entering their, say, their 9th grade science class who need occupational therapy that's being administered by a teacher who's trained in, say, sciences. And yet they are getting evaluated on how the student's going to perform the test. 40% of their evaluation, he's thrown the teachers on the bus in a lot of different situations, which has created a lack of faith and a belief into the teachers and the noble profession that it is. For many students who feel they don't want to go into this environment where they're going to be treated like they're not doing their job. And as you all know, you face the taxpayers every single year with your accounting and your budgeting. And I can't think of any other regulated industry, and I hate to use the word industry, but area in state government that is not more heavily accounted for, just the process that a school district has to go through to comply is, I think, unfair in many ways. And I think that teachers, just to fill out the forms, to deal with the bureaucracy, I think that a lot of it is very unappealing for especially someone, and most teachers I find are really seriously interested in teaching their students and get very actively involved and even pay for some of their materials that the school district can't provide. They go beyond the 3:30 last bell. They're helping their students around the clock. And I think I'd like to see us go back to that with a governor that's more sympathetic to understanding the difficulty that our school districts are facing now. So to me, I think that's part of the reason that a lot of teachers are uncomfortable, the way that the unfunded mandates and cause this, it's just a hostile environment in an environment that should be a wonderful, warm, welcoming learning environment for our children.
Thank you. As promised, it's 8 o'clock, and so we're going to start the question and answer period and give each of the candidates 5 minutes to talk about whatever they'd like to talk about. But Mr. Stewart, I believe you have just a couple of quick comments.
Yes, I do. In regards, in your closing comments, our school board institute would like to know if you are going to maintain an office in the area. And the second would be, are you committed to hold an educational summit in the area every 2 years, where you can meet with school board members, superintendents, and business officials? So if you could best candidate.
As someone attending, would you like to go first?
Thank you. Of course, I would do both of those. I live in New Hartford, and I'd be maintaining as many offices as I could to meet the needs of the district. The nice thing about this congressional district is it's half the size of my assembly district. So anyway, first of all, a couple of things about me, as many of you already know me, you don't know my opponents as well, is that I have been committed to education. I've proven that through my willingness to actually relocate my district in now 2 different institutional educational settings. And I think it's been a great experience for me. I'm always open-minded. I'm always looking forward to finding out and gaining a competency on these issues. And you have all been a great resource, whether it's administrators, teachers, and board members, in giving me the information that we need. And so you know that I'm always out there trying to find a better way for you. I'm committed to education. I've proven that through my service on the education committee. I'm very well aware of the constitutional requirement that we have on the state level for sure in providing sound basic education. On the national level, I take that commitment to education to knowing that we do need to have our students understanding critical thinking skills and learning. And also, I think the most important quality that I have and why I think I'm going to be the strongest candidate is you know where I'm coming from. I always have the courage to stand up for you, for our parents, for our students and our teachers, and I'm always, you may not agree with everything that I finally conclude on, but you know that I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to fight for you, and I'm not afraid to stand up. I'm not afraid to take the consequences. And I think that you've seen that in I'm still surviving after, I think over $5.5 million in negative ads have been spent on me in the last 2 years, just because of some of the positions that I've taken that have been misinterpreted in commercials or whatever you want to call them. I voted against the school budgets in New York State, not because some of them were really good, because last year it was great, but because they were linked with things that I couldn't support, and because we didn't actually finally reform our school aid budget. And I say that every time I come out of our budget votes. And I think that's something that you can rely on me. I have a record, and I stand up to it, and I defend it. But I'm also willing to learn and change and understand what we need to do to change education. And I'm always committed to it. I'm grateful to this community for providing me with a great education, with a wonderful background, to me and my son, who we both went through the same school. I grew up in the house, the house I live in is across the street from the house I grew up in, so my son and I went to the same elementary, junior high, and high school class, and got a wonderful education. And, you know, I've said this before, and some of you have heard this, but my son went to the Naval Academy, which is a great honor for my family. But when he came back after his first year, I said, so how are these professors at the Naval Academy? And he said, they're on par with some of the teachers at New Hartford. So that is a great testament to it as a public school that also is a below average wealth district. So many of our schools are producing incredibly phenomenal students. The city schools also with very limited resources. Can you imagine what we could produce if we were actually getting what we should get on the school aid formula? And that's something that I hope that we can make up for on the federal level as well. So thank you very much for coming out. I really appreciate this forum. It's a great opportunity always to talk about education. Thank you.
Since most of you, this is the first time you've had a chance to actually see me, I would like to take an opportunity to provide a little introduction in terms of my background and what caused me to run for Congress. Many of you know that I was born and raised in Little Falls, where I live right now, but I did have a period of time when I moved away and learned a lot. Not only with how things work in newer industries and other locations, as I started a company in Silicon Valley, a company that provides services to small and mid-sized companies with all of the headaches that those companies have and being an employer. That's the nature of my business. It's made me very aware of the regulatory environment for small businesses. And along that path in helping many companies that were in these newer industries all across the U.S., as the company has grown as a large company traded on the New York Stock Exchange, I had the chance to see why so many of our best and brightest actually left our area to take advantage of these new industries in occupations they could not find here. So when we moved our family from Silicon Valley back to my hometown of Little Falls in 1999, I spent 10 years doing cross-country commute. And throughout that period, thought a lot about, we have all the resources here, but we have a lot of smart people. We have great educational systems. We have people that come from all over the world to go to school here, and yet too many of our best and brightest we wave goodbye to after they graduate. And that's the reason I'm running for Congress, is that I believe it doesn't have to be that way. I spent the last 6 years building a nonprofit that has as its mission helping other people create companies and jobs. Because it's not government that creates jobs, it is the private sector. We want to have more private sector jobs, and especially in these new industries that our best and brightest want to work. And I've had a chance to do that now in helping hundreds of entrepreneurs, and we really have laid the foundation for creating thousands of jobs. Education is key to all of this. I've been involved in my own school district in Little Falls, recognizing that in order for that vision that I mentioned earlier, the digital curriculum to come about, where our teachers can be equipped, taking advantage of not only a digitally savvy student that they have in their classroom, but the opportunity for adaptive learning to take place actually empowers teachers to get a better, get faster progress in how they can help their students. And our school district, like many others here, is not resourced to a level they would like to roll out a more advanced curriculum. But in the last 18 months, we've made a lot of progress. And our superintendent now in Little Falls, who came from New Hartford School District, where he was principal of the middle school, would tell you that we're more advanced now in Little Falls than they are in New Hartford with regards to the digital curriculum. And we got there by bringing people in from outside the area who had expertise, who had best practices knowledge of what's going on in school districts that are more advanced than we were. And we helped address some of those problems, including how to get broadband access to students at homes where they don't have broadband. I'm not in favor of a lot of federal government handcuffs on things like Common Core. I've talked about that. Unfunded mandates are a great concern to me. I will fight hard to help reduce the number of these unfunded mandates, and instead work hard by helping to bring the visibility to these opportunities that I mentioned in these newer industries, and partnerships with individuals and companies in these newer industries to actually help in our local schools. This is how it works in other areas. In places where school districts have really advanced on this path, they actually have people in industry, in these newer industries, helping the school districts. We can do that here, and I would bring that to you as your congressman.
Before you pass the mic,
Yes, 2 questions. Yes, I will maintain an office in this area. We already have 3 campaign offices, and I would absolutely continue in an office as congressman here at Beaver Rome. And I would be delighted to help lead an education summit every 2 years, if not more often.
Thank you very much. Nothing is more important in a society and a community than educating our children. It's the key to our future. It's the key to everything. As a matter of fact, as an educator, my visual learning says it's a Venn diagram. And in the center of every issue surrounding this country and the world, the center of it is education. That's how important it is. Yes, I will absolutely maintain an office in the Utica area here. And as always, my door will always be open to suggestions, to forum, to hearing what anybody else has to say, because I'm really not that smart to know all the answers, and you are the experts who are in the trenches. And a forum to bring education to the forefront would be a blessing, and it would be key to being a successful congressional candidate, congressman from this area. The key to a happy life is over the threshold of a good education, of a quality education. That is how important I know that a quality education is. I'm reminded of, I have a lot of relationships with a lot of educators in the Binghamton area. And this principal called me one day because she knows me well, and she knows among the many things in my life, I'm able to move and move quickly to help someone. She told me about this little boy who was in her classroom or in her school, 3rd grade. Took them 3 days in order to get him to take his coat off. And when they did, the only shirt that this child owned was the most disgusting, filthy thing that he owned. So I went and helped out, and I came to the school, and this was a while ago, so let's not talk about confidentiality, but whatever. She let me be in the office when she brought this precious 3rd grader in, and as she took everything out of the bag, and she was so great with him, and she's saying, oh, you look so handsome in this, you will look so great in this. And I was watching and observing him, and he had complete no affect, absolutely no affect whatsoever, until he finally reached out and he felt one of the shirts and he said, I've never owned anything that still had the tag on it. And at that moment, my mind said, 3rd grade, and we're gonna expect him to learn his multiplication tables by the end of this year. It's not gonna happen. So that's why I talk about poverty and how we need to lift our society out of poverty to help education with good paying jobs and a quality of life jobs. When I go to Washington, I will demonstrate the service that I have demonstrated throughout my life. I've been on the Board of Education for 18 years. I've married my husband for 36 years, and we have 6 children. They are as different as, well, we used to say that they're north, south, east, and west, but the last 2 are adopted from China, so they're from the Far East. And they are as different as can be. I have some that were athletes, some that were into the arts, some that were academically very well, got an international baccalaureate diploma. I have a student that has a 504 accommodation plan. I even have a couple of my children who are minorities. So I understand the challenges and I understand the diversity of public education. As I said, I served on the Board of Education for 18 years, and my record on there of attendance was unbelievable because this was so important. I understood how a school board member, how vital it is for you to understand, ask questions, and to seek knowledge of everything that you do. I've had many blessings in my life. I'm actually probably one of the most blessed people I know in this world. And one of my blessings was I am a product of a quality public school education. I can name each and every one of my teachers from kindergarten right through 12th grade. And one of them that stands out to me is my 8th grade social studies teacher. She was an immigrant from the Netherlands, and I remember everything she taught us about U.S. history. One of the most important lessons that she taught us was that this United States government is a participatory government. If you don't participate, it doesn't work. That's why I want to go to Congress, is because it's time for somebody to participate that understands the issues, that understands education, that is going to go there for the right reason, not for their own personal agenda, not because they want to advance themselves in some type of career. And I just have to thank Mrs. Hickling, an 8th grade social studies teacher, for bringing that home to me and making me understand I need to participate. I need to either stop screaming at the television set or I need to do something about it. And that's what I intend to do. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the other candidates. It was very refreshing having them actually answer the questions that were asked. And they stayed on point, so that it was really a nice evening. I'd like to thank our facilitators, Mr. Russ Stewart, Mr. Thomas Moats. We have 2 things. You have a ticket to exit, which is I believe it's a blue evaluation sheet that needs to be filled out and handed to Mr. Van Warmer. We also have a social hour.
Yes, real quick. Yes, we have a complimentary social hour over there at the bar. And real quick, the Jackie Grove has continued her tradition of the top award for tonight. Madison Bosse's come up for a award. 6 people, Markham with 4, Markham with 4, New York Mills with 4, and Arista with 5. Thank you so much. And the legislative committee sponsored this program. Legislative committee does a great job. And after our during our social hour, I need to talk with our legislative committee for about 2 minutes on a New York State forum, what we're going to do. Okay? So, candidates, great job. Phenomenal. Thank you so much.